Hey guys, welcome back. Week 3. Just so glad that we are back together again. And like I said, week 3, we are going to finish up this 3-part series. And as we always do, just want to just rehash what we've gone over. Again, week 1 we talked about just welcoming everybody, giving a foundation of what nurturing father is. What we did is we went over our fathering history, just talking about our kids, what it looks like, our family makeup, and dynamics, any big events that have happened throughout the course of our fathering history, divorces, deaths, marriages, things of that nature that might have an effect on our fathering styles, influencing our children. Week 2, we did a little continuation of that, but then we also talked about my father and me. We did a little visualization technique exercise where we had a mediator or not a mediator, but we had someone lead us through a guided meditation, a guided visualization with some pointed questions, just having us think about our fathers, how we related to our fathers. And then once we came out of that 5-minute visualization, what we did was we just talked about that a little bit further. We got into a little bit more detail as to what that meant to us and qualities of our father. We had descriptive words and phrases that we were able to put pen to paper, just to go back in our earlier days, just to see, how all of those things really affect us as fathers. A lot of the things that we do, we may not have been aware how that became part of us, became a part of the DNA that we are today. I shared a story of, just when I moved to California many years ago, unbeknownst to me, my father had a very similar move. He was going into the Air Force, and he moved from New York, and as he was coming to camp to get prepared for his time in the Air Force, drove cross country, very similar to what I did. Wind up spending some time in California, which I ultimately found myself. But at the time that we did those moves in our lives, my dad was 2 years younger than I was. And I didn't know until I read some letters that I was very fortunate enough to read that my dad had written to his parents while he was in the service. So, there are things that we do that we're not even aware of. But it's just because of that connection we have to our fathers, whether that be good, whether that be bad, whether that be indifferent. But it's good to just go back into just think about those things, because if they had an effect on us without us knowing it, what type of effect are we having on our kids today, right? That we really don't even know that we're having on them. So it just puts us in a better mind space to be able to be more aware of those things as we move forward. Okay. So, that is what we did week 2. And like I said, week 3, it's been a great time getting to know you guys, and exploring a little bit more, about, fathering histories, fathering styles, and things of that nature. And like I said, in week 1, the goal for these first 3 sessions was to ultimately get to a point where we could create a vision statement of the father I choose to be. Into that in a couple of seconds, but as I always like to do, give the floor to you guys after I do a little recap. If there's any questions, if there's any new thoughts that have come to your mind while we were away, definitely want to give you the opportunity to share those things, and definitely if there's any highlights for your week that you want to share with the guys, this is always the opportunity to do that. So the floor is yours. I'll give you that space and we'll go from there. All right. So whoever wants to jump in, feel free. The floor is open. So good. Thanks for sharing. And I'm glad everybody had a good week. And I'm glad you guys were able to, take a little look into this a little bit deeper because, the first, 10 minutes or so that we have in group, we're just going to, tighten up any of the loose ends that we may have with my father and me. So let me get that worksheet up so everybody can see it. And then we'll spend a couple more minutes on that, finishing it up because it's just very important. All of these steps are just important to get us to the next steps of where we want to be. So give me a second. I'm going to pull that up real quick. And then we'll go, okay, from there. All right. So again, as I mentioned, we did the visualization, my father and me. We listed the qualities, the descriptive words, phrases that described your father or primary father figure in your life. So we did that. I think the last part that we need to, just spend a couple more minutes on was, if your father was absent, what did that leave you with? What did that leave you longing with? Was there any hurt? And was there any determination to be different? What do you know about him from other people? So that's where we left off. And, we don't have to spend too much time, because we got into that a little bit. But, I just wanted to take a look and the one question that I wanted to go back to was, what do you know, about your father from others? Okay. In an example, my grandmother, who, played a big part in, my growing up, we lived really close together next door to each other. So, I saw my grandmother every day, even to the point where my grandmother worked at the high school that I went to. So I would see my grandmother at lunchtime, see her there. But we would always have great conversations about, a lot of the things that, just aspirations and goals and dreams that she had for my father. Some things that was accomplished and some things that weren't accomplished. So we would have those conversations. She just would share her heart with me, of when my dad was younger and when he was growing up and, in church, playing the piano and wanting to play sports, went to school and then ultimately, wanting to be like his cousins because my dad was an only child. So he had older cousins and all of them went into the military. And as a result of him being, the only child and looking up to his cousins, that's what he wanted to do. So, my grandmother would give me those stories about how he followed kind of in the footsteps of his cousins, went into the military and, said that he was a different man when he came back. And I think, we can all relate to that of what we know about war and people that we've come in contact with that may share stories. It's a difficult thing, and when you're young and you haven't fully developed mentally and physically and emotionally and socially, those things shape you, right? And unless you have a good support system when you come back home, it could have some damaging effects. So, those are some of the things that my grandmother shared with me about my dad. So, that's what I mean. What do you know about your dad from others? So, go ahead. Yeah, you can share. I'm glad we were able to wrap that up. And like I always say, man, all of these parts, they work together and ultimately are going to get us to that final step of the vision statement, fatherhood vision statement that we want to create. So let's get there and we'll go from there. So the vision statement. Let's get to this part. And the first thing it says, vision statement, the father I choose to be. Save some. List the specific aspects of your father's fathering style that you choose to adopt as your own. And then basically we're just going to list those. So I choose to what? Yep. And that's a great one. When you talk about I choose to be present, that is really, really foundational in what we want to do. We want to be present, for our kids, right? And, that can go two ways, present in a positive way or present in a negative way. But being present, it really is an important part of what we want to do. So being present, okay? Loving, that's another one. Thanks for sharing that. Understanding. Definitely, definitely. So being able to have, a dialogue, conversation, with your kids, understanding, where they are. And, as they grow, they're going to be at different levels and different phases of their lives, So conversation and having the open mind and being understanding is going to be very important, to have trust, and for their continued growth, right? Because if they can't come to us and talk to us, and we try to understand, even as difficult as it can be sometimes, of how we come up with that, but just working it out, that's important, because if it's not us, they're gonna go to somebody else, right? And who knows what that other source is gonna be. Again, it could be positive or negative, but we want to be there. The one of the things, that I always choose is, just to acknowledge. I choose to acknowledge, you know, uh, the successes, of my kids. My dad would always tell me, he was proud of me, when I would accomplish something, right? So, that was important, to get that pat on the back, that affirmation that, my hard work that I put into it, it was recognized, and, he appreciated, the effort that I put in. So, recognizing, accomplishments, and letting my kids know that I'm proud of them when they've done something well, is something that I choose to hold on to. Okay. All of the things that we choose to keep, there might be some things that we just say, you know what, that, is something that I don't want to keep, right? That's something that I want to throw away, as far away as possible, because I know, that wasn't helpful for me, and I do not want that to be something that I repeat with my kids. One thing, that I would like to throw away, is not being emotionally present for my kids, right? And what do I mean by that? So, I saw my dad every day, right? He was physically there, but he wasn't always emotionally there for me the way that I needed him. I really appreciate, you sharing, those characteristics, with me, the things that, are better left, over there in the past, and not to be utilized right now and today and moving forward. So, again, it takes, this is hard work. And again, I know it can bring up certain things. So I appreciate the fact that, you guys are sharing these things, as deeply and emotionally as possible. So, that's awesome, and that's the growth part. We have this space to be able to share and to grow, and to listen and to hear. So thanks for sharing that. Okay. And now the fun part, right? And we're all at different parts and stages of our fatherhood, right? Because our kids are different ages. This question right here asks, add some of my own. Okay. List any additional fathering qualities that you choose to utilize. In addition, I choose to. So I choose to keep some things from my dad. I choose not to, keep some of those things that I've learned. Now, some of the things that I've learned along the way, what are some of those things that I've learned, that I want to keep? I have a little bit of a smile on my face. Humor. I think, smiling and laughing, it does a person good. So that's one of the things. I haven't always been a person to smile, a person to laugh, to joke, but I want to bring that joy, to my kids' lives. So I choose to keep that, or add that, to who I am, as a father to my kids. And would definitely love to hear some of the things that you guys would like to keep, or to add, of your own, as we all are trying to learn from each other. Again, guys, that's the work that we've done, over the last 3 weeks, with today included. The vision statement, the father I choose to be. And we just, went over 3 specific areas, things that I choose to keep from my dad, things that I choose not to keep from my father's fathering styles, and the things that I want to add. And like I said in the beginning, this is a living document. This isn't something that's a one and done. There might be some principles, that we have in here: loving, emotionally present, not being emotionally absent, having humor brought to my kids, right? Those are principles that we can have. But again, this is going to be something that we can always tweak. There might be something that we do well, and we want to keep that there. There might be something that we're not doing as well, and those are the things that we want to tweak a little bit, change, get rid of, add some things. But this isn't something that's just done, right? And that's the great thing about fatherhood, and the great thing about being able to have relationships with our kids is it's something that we can always work on, we can always improve, and that's the work, that's the job, that's the task, the good, the bad, the ugly of being a father, right? So thank you guys. I appreciate the hard work on this. Definitely any questions, if anybody has any questions, that's the time to do it. If not, we'll be beating back next week, and we'll be moving on to a different topic. Again, a more of a inward look at us, and who we are as men, who we were as younger men, little boys, because we want to fill in any of those holes or any of those gaps that might be missing. We want to put the proper work over those things so we can heal, so we can learn, and we can move forward, and we can be better us, right? So then we can be better dads to our kids. So thanks, guys. Looking forward to seeing you guys next week. As always, it's a pleasure, and I love doing the work that we're doing together. Fatherhood is a journey that you don't have to do alone. And that's what the purpose of this group is. You don't have to do it alone. All right. Talk to you guys next week. Have a good one. Bye.